everybody has a friend or knows somebody that words don't always come out right, or maybe we give TMI. Well, in my group of friends, that's me. Hence the reason I am here at Toastmasters. I grew up in St. Louis as a minority, and I do still have a little bit of hood in me, my husband says. So if you hear me say, hey, or you go girl, you know my roots are just showing. It also gave me a love for 80s and 90s hip hop music. I will admit that my most played station on Pandora is Whoomp, There It Is. And my husband, it drives him a little bit nuts, but he loves it because I can't not dance, and he likes to watch me dance, so it's a win-win. I also grew up in a family of 8. I was the baby. It was a very religious family, very conservative. I would call it a black and white mentality, and so I grew up with quite a bit of judgment within me. And an example of that is when I was about 10, you get in your little fights with your girlfriends, and I said to my girlfriend, I said, well, your mom's gonna die early because she's a smoker. And yeah, so that's just a little piece of how I was a good person, but I was a little mixed up. So just because my family was conservative doesn't mean we didn't know how to have fun. We had a lot of fun. And an example of a game my dad made up, he was always coming up with new things for us to do. He had a stack of paper grocery sacks and rolled up newspapers, and he had us put the grocery sacks on. Mind you, there were no eye holes. And he handed us the newspapers, and he said, go at it. Like, we get to hit each other, like intentionally, like you've always wanted to do that. So now keep in mind, I was the youngest of 8, and there was only probably 6 of us there at the time, but ages 5 to 15, there's clear disadvantages in this scenario. So it was all fun and games until a few of us got hit too hard in the head. Moving on to my adulthood. As I went through life, I've always been a fun-loving person. I'm an open book. And I had a lot of judgmental instances that I have apologized to people 10 years later when I've recognized it, but it took me a while to actually recognize it, thanks to my amazing husband. And I had so much fun and love and joy to give, but it was stifled because I also had so much judgment within me towards myself and towards others around me. And I had this checklist that I thought I needed to make it to heaven. And I couldn't ever complete it. It was impossible. And so I had the frustration of doing something I didn't really feel like was getting me anywhere, and then the self-judgment at not completing it. And I was doing so much out of obligation instead of desire. And I realized at one point that I didn't trust myself. I didn't know how to. I never ventured outside of this box. I never tried something to see what my own boundaries were. And honestly, I was really afraid. I was afraid to question anything because of the judgment from family and friends that might come through, that I knew would come through. And honestly, I was afraid I was going to become like a slut and a drunk. And I know that sounds bizarre, but I really was. I was like, well, if there's not someone telling me how to live, then how am I going to be a good person? I don't know. Where does that come from? It was a real fear. I know. It sounds bizarre. There's no light. Okay. So I decided to push through that fear. And for the first time in my life, I began to question. And I decided to take out the middlemen and just talk to God myself. And I filled up 1.5 journals in this journey of mine. And it was a very emotional time for me. But I really wanted to find out who I really was without any outside influence besides source. And I got answers. Never in my life did I think of letting go of my previous held beliefs would open up this new world. It's almost like I almost sang a whole new world, and my kids were like, no. But it really was. It's like my eyes opened because I started to let go of all of these have-tos and just shedding all these responsibilities that weren't getting me anywhere. And I was able to create a deeper connection with Source and connect with my guardian angels and those around me. And because I was able to start shedding some of these things, my anger lessened. And I let go of my self-judgment and the judgment of others, and I had all of this love to give now, so much more than I had before. And now I do things because I want to. I run a soup kitchen every other month because I want to. I make homeless kits with my kids because I want to. And through this process, I did get answers that I am enough, that I am perfect as I am, and that if God is love and I am inexplicably connected to Him, I am love. This, friends, is a short explanation of my journey to find myself.